Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the Heart and Chutzpah podcast. So glad to be with you. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I have as my guest a friend of many years who's also been on the podcast a couple of times, and I'm so pleased every time she's here. We just there's a lot of love and synergy and delight in our conversations. So today's guest is Harriet Tubman Wright. Harriet is an accomplished speaker, storyteller, publisher, an author and poet, practices person-centered expressive arts as a facilitator. She's a metaphysician and initiated priestess and elder. She's the director of the Wright Resort, Your Soul Safari to Success. She guides mature spiritual women to fulfill their passion so they can live healthy, purposeful, and prosperous lives, doing what they most love to do to serve other people and themselves. She also helps them to develop leadership skills to transform businesses, organizations, and communities to ultimately help heal people and the world. Elder Harriet, as she calls herself, connects, and others call her that as well, connects with business, professional, and cultural groups through transformational talks on feminine leadership, soul power, and holistic health. She captivates, as you will see, audiences with her humor and wisdom. She's a natural leader, seasoned professional, and your guide to be fulfilled and free. So I'm so glad to welcome you, Harriet. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm really excited and pleased to be here. It's always a delight. And I feel like, yes, we've known each other for many years and we keep growing through the friendship.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes. I'm so glad that you're here. It's interesting because the other day we were scheduled to record the podcast, and I woke up to no power in the house. Throughout the morning, I kept going on and going off, and I'm grateful to have power at all sometimes. But this was one of those days. I had a lot planned. I was going to do this podcast, and I finally was able to talk to Harriet, and I was just like, I'm just so pissed off. Here we're trying to do God's work, and we're trying to share this message of spiritual entrepreneurship, and we're just being stopped. And we were laughing about this. And I'm just saying, I'm just pissed. And Harriet suggested, well, maybe that's what we talk about, is being two spiritual entrepreneurs who are pissed off. It's like, ooh, because especially as spiritual women and entrepreneurs, we're supposed to be, I shared with her, I think I'm supposed to always be in more of a flow and whatever happens. But I was pissed. And so I want to thank Harriet for that idea. Like, let's go with that. I think that might be interesting. And of course, we also want to speak about the challenges and opportunities of being spiritual entrepreneurs. Excellent. But maybe also dispel this myth that we're always going to be and
It's so true. I believe that spiritual practices make a big difference, and those practices include how we serve others, how we serve spiritual women. And one of the things that feels important to me is that we be authentic and in alignment. And what that really means is that if we meditate, if we pray, if I'm involved in affirmative prayer, and so I may be thinking of a particular solution, or when I'm working with a client, but I'm going to say highest and best good, because highest and best good is what the creator calls for. And so I might meditate before and invite my client, let's just take a few moments to get centered, to get focused. I may invite her to say a prayer. I might say a prayer, but I think it's really important, if we call ourselves spiritual entrepreneurs, that we be in alignment, in authentic and in alignment to who we are, and be able to share that. And so taking a few minutes to go or whatever is an important grounding.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say authentic, I think it's I really do try to be positive a lot of the time. And when I'm not, I think there's something wrong. But the creator knows that when things don't go my way, I might be challenged by it. And that's being authentic, to be able to say, yeah, I'm pissed. This is not how I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
And we
yeah.
know that there's a higher plan.
Well,
And it may not be mine.
and you said it may not be my plan. And I think, when how we communicate the value of what we bring. I used to always say, it was healing, empowerment, and transformation. And I still believe that to be the case. I may use different tools. I may have additional tools in my toolkit. However, I still believe overall I'm serving to heal, empower, and transform that individual, and therefore support them in transforming their business or their organization or their community. Because, when I say transformation, I'm really talking about liberation. And when too many of us are stuck, that's not the energy of freedom or liberation, or the energy of service. And so, when you're talking about pissed off, and maybe we shouldn't do this after all, that is a level of honoring so that we can serve at our highest and best.
Right.
We get to be real people. We get to be pissed off.
Yes, we do. And on occasion, we are. Yeah. But I found it really interesting the other day too, how tuned in you were to just the energy in my voice. It's like, and both of us honoring, okay, maybe today isn't the day to do this. And I really do think it's great to be able to say, there are those days that when things and if I can share, I've heard you on a couple of calls that we've had about having to clear up cat poo, and I know you weren't happy when you had nothing to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've had many cat visitors, and I started looking up, well, what is the metaphysical meaning of cat?
Yes.
Who is Boss in the Kemetic or Egyptian? What something is being there, a message is being communicated to me. And so that again is, a part of my spiritual nature, because this means something. What is it?
Yes.
Because I acknowledge that, yes, I can get angry, I can get pissed off, I can really, as sometimes I say, oh, don't let me get East Oakland on you. because it'll be all over. And so I think the other part of that in terms of serving our ideal clients is to be clear about the value that we bring and therefore the prices we charge. And sometimes there are people who respect and respond to something that may be a VIP level or a higher priced service. We have to be comfortable with that, knowing that we command that price because of the value that we bring to the client, to their healing, to their empowerment, to their transformation.
Yes. Yeah. And I think when you speak about that, I so many of us for so long, and it's almost like the starving artist, the starving spiritual entrepreneur, because, well, it's spiritual, so we shouldn't charge. But because I know a lot of your background, you have degrees, and you've put in time and money, and training on training, and all of this is valuable. And to just discount, as some people do, oh, it's spiritual, so we shouldn't charge. But if we really consider how much training and education and work, spiritual practice that has been put in, what's that worth? There's the value. The value is the results people will get, but also how much we have put into it to develop the work that we do.
So. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think of the monthly practice that you offer, the Soul Soak, and you bring a different language and you're introducing a different vibration with a different, and you say it you say it naturally, and there are words that people are not familiar with, but it is the vibration and energy that you bring to it. And I've always said, well, I want to make a financial contribution, because you are giving from your heart and soul in a very unique way. Nobody does this. You own that. And so I think it's very important that we get comfortable with the value we bring and the investment that we've made, and therefore the investment we expect from those that we serve, because we are serving at our highest and best to create the healing, to create the transformation, to liberate, and so that client is a changed woman. She's
yes, that they get to see themselves differently and know that there has been this transformation to more of who they are, sort of being able to let go of some of the old beliefs and be able to step into this new leadership. Because you talk about evolutionary, but revolutionary leadership. And God knows we need this right now.
Well, we are in a time of transformation, and I sometimes talk about the divine feminine, and I think that at one point, because moving from the public sector to being an entrepreneur was a major shift. There was so much marketing, networking, all these things that I had really never done. And over a period of time, I began to see the Wright Resort as my ministry. And, so that shifted my energy and the way that I felt about and feel about what I am doing, the Wright Resort as ministry. Wow. And so I've learned a few things. And, before we complete, I'd like to be able to share some of the things that I've learned from that perspective, because it defines not so much who I am, but how I work with others, how I serve others, how I hope enrich, empower others, because that's what we want to do. We're changing lives for the better.
Yes, yes. So why don't you just go ahead and share some of these things, because I think this is it's rich.
Well, I'll share a few, and
Yeah,
one
please.
is to be authentic, vulnerable, compassionate, and loving with myself and my clients, and be willing to stretch beyond my comfort zone or routine, be willing to risk new learning so that I can up level my skill set and then be able to offer what I have learned and increase my capacity to grow my clients as well. And to be clear, we've talked about this, to be clear about my expertise solving a specific problem that the client is willing to invest in solving. So therefore, be recognized as the expert or the authority in what we used to call our unique brilliance. And so, there are other, be focused on breakthroughs and benefits, not so much how I do it, but to facilitate the highest and best for the client, and be willing to collaborate with others whose client base is similar and the skill set is complementary. You as a coach or a spiritual entrepreneur, you bring a certain set of skills. I bring a certain set of skills. If we collaborate or work together, how much more that benefits the client. And the last thing, be vigilant about investing and retaining a mentor myself that keeps stretching and growing me so that I can excel and surpass any lack and limitation thoughts in my own head, and then I can be the best of service to my clients. And those are significant learnings, because it just I can appreciate who I am and what I bring, but more importantly, the ways that the life of the person I am working with, coaching, mentoring, guiding, their lives are transformed for the best.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that. And I can feel that it's more than just passion. It's the commitment to the liberation of women who have held themselves back and have so much more to offer. And since we're sort of talking about the spiritual entrepreneurship, this is, there's so many women, I think, right now, that in these times when my sense is that there's a spiritual revolution that is happening, and to be able to share authentically and share some of the skills that you've learned and be able to mentor, and how I'm seeing it is just like not dragging them along, because it's not that, inviting them along and showing, being a way shower, which I think you do, because you do talk about this liberation so often, and you are such a leader. So it just feels very exciting. But there are challenges, in doing this. So maybe you can touch really briefly on some of the challenges that you see in the women that you work with. And I say this because you have a gift that you're giving that feels like it's a soul guide. And so I'd like to be able to touch on that. But one of the reasons you've developed this is because there are challenges. So
it really comes from my own experience as an employee. And when I chose to retire, even though I was doing my business on the side, to retire and give full-time attention, it was, I had reached a certain plateau, but many of the women that I was working with were frustrated and stuck doing a job that they thought they had to keep doing for, reasons that were legitimate, but they were so unhappy. And I can remember, I would go to work and then I would go learn how to do calligraphy, or I'd go, I'd do something else because that was kept my mind stimulated. So I was really working initially with women who frustrated, stuck, and say, here are some alternatives, here are some options, have you considered? And I worked with a group of women around prosperity initially, and it was 6 weeks, and then, well, what's next? So I had to create another 6 weeks, and many of them became one-on-one clients after that, some of them VIP clients. And so there was a journey of evolution in our work together, from group to individual to VIP. And it's a journey, and that's why I say your guide to be fulfilled and free, because I'm journeying with you to a destination that we determine is where you want to go, or where you want to get to, who you want to be. It's always about who are you born to be, what are you born to do. Because we know that when a person is in their element, so to speak, they are juiced, and then you get juiced, you get excited, you see what's possible for yourself. And that brings a great deal of peace of mind and joy for me, to be able to facilitate that kind of growth, that kind of healing, empowerment, transformation, liberation, because this is what time it is.
yes. And as you know, I sometimes get these images that it felt almost like a bubbling of, we work with one woman and her life is transformed. She speaks to her children differently, her husband, her co-workers, and it lights the dominoes. It lights a light in each person, and it really is. This is part of how we heal one another and the planet, as you said. It's just so. I'm just thinking, so as we talk about being spiritual entrepreneurs and having a ministry, because most of us do, it's like our work is our ministry, our businessry. And what an opportunity this is, to be able to share our love of the divine, the creator, all that is. This is awesome.
I'm happy to see you smiling and bubbling. Transformation on the spot, from pissed off to bubbling, effervescent.
Yes. Well, thank you. It feels a lot better too. But I do have to say, just going back to the pissed off, the Rumi, who is one of my favorites, writes about the guest house, and you invite all of the emotions in, and sometimes they're going to be unpleasant and they're going to wreck your home, but they're, if we welcome them and accept them and accept ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and I just wanted to thank you so much for just saying, this is how it is. And today isn't a good to record. So, yeah. So I know our time is coming to a close, but I was wondering if you'd like to share a little bit about the guide. I know that you've mentioned it, and and I will put this in the show notes for everyone so that they can access this.
The current gift, and I'll hold a picture of it up.
Lovely. The butterfly. I love it. And the chakras.
And it is 5 essential tools to lead the revolution toward love, light, and liberation, a spiritual guide for change makers. And it's about a journey. It is about a journey. And so you're going to look at yourself, you're going to look at your business or your organization, and the tools, we have soul care tools, the whole notion of, wow, what is my soul saying to me? How am I expressing from my heart and soul? And then we have the self-care tools. When I wrote the book, Releasing Stress, Creating Serenity, a self-care primer for busy women, it's like, if I can't pull the mask down and take care of myself first, when I do that, I'm in a better position to serve others from what I call a wellspring of vigor and vitality. Take care first. And so that's soul care and self-care tools. And then I talk about sacred ritual tools. And a lot of that, brushing our teeth is a ritual. We may not consider it sacred, but it's an example of a tool. I use altars a lot, a prosperity altar or a relationship altar. And, there are rituals that we do every day that we don't really think about as sacred, but waking up, saying a prayer or meditating, repeating your mantra, all of these are tools to get us grounded, centered, and ready.
I just have to chime in here. What if brushing my teeth became a sacred ritual, being aware? And well, we know this. Everything we do, our life, it can be a prayer, our whole
Absolutely.
life.
You're absolutely right. And the other tool is person-centered expressive arts. And it's really the philosophy that we have the answers within. And there are tools like dance or poetry or finger painting that can help us get in touch with that inner knowing. And of course, the 5th tool is guidance. Let me be your guide.
Yes.
To be fulfilled and free. But it really, it is a journey. It's an adventure. And going through it in that spirit of adventure and contemplation and etc. I think that people will find, I know that people have found it to be very useful, and I welcome the opportunity to share it with our listeners.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Harriet is the most eloquent and beautiful writer. Things she sends, it's exquisite and elegant. So I know that you will really enjoy having a copy of this guide. So I want to thank all our listeners. I want to thank you, Harriet, so much for being with me today. I really, it's always a pleasure. And as I said earlier, just a delight, because I just get excited talking with you and getting to see you. So
Well,
wonderful.
it's been my pleasure. I really enjoy the interaction and the exchange, and we're change makers.
Yes, we are, as are so many of our listeners. And so I hope you really enjoy this episode about two top spiritual entrepreneurs having a conversation. And again, thank you so much for listening. Love and blessings to all of you. Thank you so much. Bye for now.